The Palestinians are closing doors as well, aren't they? Well, closing doors with the Americans.
Well, nobody benefits more from opening doors with the Americans than Palestinians, and nobody loses more in closing doors than Palestinians.
Well, that's why President Abbas told Donald Trump, damn your money and may your house be destroyed. Saeb Erekat, the fact remains, you can't get on with this administration. You're not going to work it. You said they're not honest brokers. You've said that. You've accused them of not being honest brokers. Over the years, you've worked with many US administrations who were much better disposed towards you, and you couldn't do a deal with them either. So you keep on waiting for someone better to come into the White House? Sooner or later, Saeb Erekat, you have to talk to him. You've been heavily criticized for what some people have called a scattergun approach, both to diplomacy and decision-making. The Palestinian academics, Hussein Agha and Ahmed Khalidi from Oxford University, they referred last year to what they said was a series of seemingly inconsistent and poorly thought-out diplomatic moves. That's your territory. Like what they call the unconvincing threats to dismantle the Palestinian Authority. How many times has that been threatened?
You know, Palestinians don't need to see with the eyes of Abu Mazen or Ṣā'ib Erekat or listen through our ears and speak through our tongues. You know that you can say anything about us. We're a full democracy.
Really? We'll come on to that in a minute. We'll come on to that a bit later.
We're human beings. We're just like you.
We'll come on to your crackdown on free speech a bit later.
We make mistakes.
When you talk about democracy.
We make mistakes. But let me finish my point about the other point before you get me into the other one. All right? What I'm telling you, no one benefits more from reaching peace more than Palestinians, and no one stands to lose more in the absence of peace more than Palestinians.
If that were true, Saeb Erekat, why don't you end your factional divisions, because they are killing your chance of peace?
I agree with you. This is on me.
Yeah, it's on you.
I agree with you.
And you don't do it year after year after year, the same factional divisions with Hamas, with the other Palestinian factions. You can't do it. You can't put aside your factional interests for the sake of the Palestinian people. Well, your president goes before the United Nations Security Council and he says, I beg of you, help us. You've got to help yourselves.
We're trying to help.
You have to sort out these factional disputes yourself. And it's not just Hamas, is it? It's not just Hamas. Last month's meeting of your Central Council, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, they weren't there. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, they weren't there either. They didn't turn up, they said, because you are stalling and procrastinating about decisions.
That's not true.
That was their accusation.
Look, I'm the Secretary General.
Face facts, the movement is falling apart. The latest polling in September, Palestinian polling, 62% want your president to resign. 67% are dissatisfied with the performance of the Palestinian Authority. 3/4 view conditions today as worse than before the Oslo Agreement.
They are.
So what have you achieved for your people? What have you achieved?
I did not come, and President Abbas did not come to be the president by a tank or by heredity. He came through elections. He won by 61% of the votes. I won by 57% of the votes, not 99%. That's the fact. And now President Abbas,
13 years into a 4-year term.
He said he wants to go to elections, and he declared he's not going to run.
Well, when are you having elections?
When we have,
keep saying.
No, if we have elections without Gaza, what will you say to them? We're separating. You think we can have a state without Gaza?
So why do you keep calling for elections? You promised elections this year.
I need elections to unify my people.
You personally promised elections this year.
That's what I did, and I'm doing it now. And I'm urging the Egyptians. The Egyptians are doing a fantastic job now. President Abbas was with President Sisi 10 days ago, and he told him, Mr. President, you specify the steps in accordance with the timelines, and I'm willing to go along with it as long as we reach the ballots and not the bullets.
And you say you can't have elections until you're unified. Whatever strategy you thought you were employing to make things better for your people, it's not working, is it? And in Gaza, you've actually been helping to cause hardship. You asked Israel to cut electricity to Gaza.
That's not true.
Because of a row with Hamas over payments.
That's not true.
You didn't ask them. Your action has put hospital operations at risk in Gaza, water pumps, the sewage system, huge health risks. You squeeze them.
Well, how can I squeeze them? I'm paying $96 million, half of my budget, 50%. What can I do? I pay the electricity for Israel, the water for Israel, and then they collect, Hamas collects, and they don't put it back in the finance ministry.
And when people protested in the streets in June about your action. You arrested dozens of them, and your security forces beat them up in custody. And you tell me how democratic you are.
Well, look, if you want me to be perfect, I'm not perfect.
This is very far from being perfect, isn't it?
Look.
This is government policy. You beat them up consistently.
You mentioned one demonstration. It's true. Some people were beaten up. That's right.
Let's get on to the real problem.
Let's get to the real problem, exactly.
Which is the human rights abuses. Human Rights Watch, which you've dealt with for many years, has just produced its latest report, compiled over 2 years, which features credible reports of shocking human rights abuses by your security services. Your abuses
How many cases the human rights specified?
They base their investigation on 147 interviews, as you know well.
In 2 years, yeah.
As you know well.
Yes.
Shocking abuse.
Yes.
They say that there are violations of international humanitarian law and contravene the legal obligations that you took when you signed up to human rights treaties over the last 5 years. Torture, extensively documented, may amount to a crime against humanity. And you're telling me you're a democratic state.
We are.
And you allow torture on a daily basis.
No, we are. We are a democratic state.
You allow torture on a daily basis.
Look, the Human Rights Watch is a respected organization. By the way, in the newly elected executive committee of the PLO, we formed a department for human rights. We took the report very seriously. The next morning, the Prime Minister, myself, the Minister of Interior, the Deputy, we met and issued a statement taking into account to study every single word in this report and formed a committee to investigate every single matter. Right?
You say this every time.
I'm not saying this.
You've given me exactly the same answer over years.
On this.
No.
And if you think one day you will wake up and you find Palestinians are void of mistakes, we're not going to give
I got the same answers from you 10, 15, 20
you
years
get the answer.
I got exactly the same
answer from me. You know, Tim.
This is the problem with growing old. You remember a few things, you know.
The point is, you know me very well, Tim. And that you know.
And I know you've made excuses for this behavior year after year after year.